Love this podcast? Support this show through the Acast supporter feature. It's up to you how much you give, and there's no regular commitment. Just hit the link in the show description to support now.
Scott Lang grapples with the consequences of his choices both as a superhero and as a father in Ant-Man and the Wasp. And what role does Nick Cage play in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in this week's episode of Cognitive Recalibration? Hi everyone, and welcome to the Cognitive Recalibration podcast. As usual, I'm your host Shravan, but not as usual, Taran is not here, for now anyway. So this is an interesting episode because in an effort to improve the quality of the audio from Taran's microphone, we purchased a new microphone and we recorded the whole Ant-Man and the Wasp episode, and it was very extensive. We did a lot of detailed analysis. We even had a guest, but it turns out that that mic was defective and most of that episode was unfortunately lost, but we have managed to salvage some of that episode for you guys. So we still do have a review of Ant-Man and the Wasp for you to listen to. So that's why I'm giving you an introduction before we go into the actual episode. So I'll introduce the guest that we had on the episode. His name is Bharadwaja. He's a very dear friend of ours. We've known him since he was born. He's currently living in Perth. He came down for a couple of weeks to Melbourne, and we had a chance to catch up with him to watch the movie as well as record this episode. So thanks again to Bharadwaja for being on this episode. And without further ado, let's jump straight in.
The most interesting news of this week, and probably the best news of the year, is that Nicolas Cage has been cast in Spiderman Into the Spiderverse. So he's doing a voice of Spider-Man Noir.
Classic Cage.
He was also cast as Superman in the Teen Titans Go to the Movies movie. So I guess he's hitting the big time now.
Why do you know that, Taran?
Oh, well, I know a lot of things. What can I say? I actually saw the trailer for that movie. It looks pretty decent. It's funny. It looks funny. I would potentially go and watch it.
So it's a movie, not a TV show.
No, it's a movie. Like, that's why it's called Teen Titans Go to the Movies. What the fuck did you expect?
I thought they all just go to watch a movie.
Watch the trailer for it. It's actually pretty funny. The story is Robin wants to make his own movie because all the big heroes make their movies and then they get popular. And Robin wants to make his own movie, but no one wants to direct it because they're like, you're not a real hero. Okay, but it's funny. And he talks to Green Lantern and he's like, you have your own movie, don't you? And he's like, yeah, I do, but we don't talk about that.
Okay, fair enough.
So it's like satirical. It's funny.
Superman play a big role in it?
Probably not.
Why did they get Nicolas Cage then?
Nicolas Cage will do anything for money these days. He's basically a hooker. Like, seriously. He'll do anything. Yeah.
Yeah, but we, on the Cognitive Recalibration podcast, we're just very big fans of Nicolas Cage. We'd have him as the logo of our podcast if we had the choice.
To be honest, we could probably pay him off. The copyright for his face is probably like 50 cents at this point. So,
Oi, don't disparage the legend.
I think one day we'll do a review of one of our favourite movies, Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Con Air. Con Air is one of my favourite movies, like, ever. But I do love Sorcerer's Apprentice as well.
National Treasure, they're always a good time.
National Treasure, in my opinion, was
amazing.
actually good. Not like joke good, but like I actually loved the first one. Second one was like alright.
To be honest, I actually love all these movies. Like, genuinely love Con Air, genuinely love National Treasure, and I genuinely love Sorcerer's Apprentice as well. I know they're not great movies, but if you asked me to watch them right now, I would binge watch all of them in a row.
You do you, don't. You do you.
I literally would. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Spider-Man Noir, what do you guys know about it?
As far as I know from the very brief intro session that Shravan gave to me before this podcast, I was involved in the industrial...
This was not planned at all. It was all impromptu.
Yeah, obviously. But I think this is one of those Spider-Mans that I think doesn't really have the moral code in terms of killing people. So, because I think from posters or images I've seen, he does use a gun.
Yes,
And
yeah.
From my understanding, the makers of the comic, it's from the it's kind of like that Spiderverse universe where there's like 50 million Spider-Man, and the guys kind of went like, what if Batman was Spider-Man? And that's kind of the character they came up
Right.
with. So it's like a goth emo Spider-Man that hates everything. But yeah, he uses guns as well.
So he still has spider power. So he's an inexperienced but idealistic apprentice of a respected yet troubled reporter. Peter Parker is accidentally bitten by an illegally imported and highly venomous spider while secretly investigating a smuggling ring of ancient spider statues. Instead of killing him, the bite gave him superhuman abilities similar to that of a spider, which is normal Spider-Man. Taking advantage of his new abilities, Peter begins to wage a one-man war against the criminal underworld in New York City as a brutal and feared vigilante known as the Spider-Man, partly to avenge the deaths of his uncle Ben Parker and his mentor Ben Urich at the hands of the city's major crime lord Norman Osborn. So it's pretty much the same universe, but set in 1933 during the Great Depression.
I thought it was in London because of the Great Depression, but it's not. It's in New York. Yeah, my bad. That'd be great. Like Spider-Man with a Cockney accent. That'd be funny.
Yeah. Well, coming to that, actually, Far From Home is set in
It's actually
in Europe or mostly in London. So it'll be interesting to see Spider-Man in London, like flying around in London.
Not just that, but the time, because apparently this comes before Avengers 4? Or will come after Avengers 4?
I thought it would be, well, he doesn't exist at the moment.
Exactly. So I wasn't sure if like, this is going to be like a pre-Avengers 3 movie that somehow built up. But then that would be like kind of a, not like a waste, but like it doesn't really set up to anything else.
Because it's coming out after Avengers 4.
Yeah, okay.
So I don't know if it's going to...
So yeah, they're pretty much already like confirmed that
he's come back, yeah.
Well, at least Spider-Man and Black Panther.
And Doctor Strange.
They've announced Doctor Strange too.
Right.
Yeah, and Guardian, and probably most of the Guardians.
Who knows? Maybe.
Although some of them could die.
Maybe Wong takes up the mantle. Who knows?
Of Doctor. We actually said that in a previous episode.
I said that in. Well, come on, I said that last episode, and
I
you laughed
rubbished
at me.
it. Yeah.
That'd be funny.
Yeah. When that comes true, I will spit in your face.
At the camera.
At the
Don't know
camera,
why.
because we never do these face to face.
I don't know why, but yeah.
The other news about Far From Home is JB Smoove. I don't know much about him. I don't think any of us know much about him.
All I know about him is he's got a fucking awesome name, JB Smooth. Like, was he born with that name, or did he change that? Yeah, was he born, or that's the important question that we need to find out. Was he born with that name or
Someone
not?
send us an email about that. Cognitive Recalibration Podcast@gmail.com. We need to know. I mean, we could just search it ourselves, but
Don't have the time, mate. Don't have the time.
Very busy people here.
Yeah.
Very busy. Yeah.
So there's speculation that he could be this universe's J. Jonah Jameson. So apparently he's a comedian, so he might suit that role. But the other thing is, for Spider-Man Homecoming, they had a series of Audi commercials.
Yeah.
Where Peter Parker was doing his driving test.
And
he was the instructor, yeah. So maybe he comes back as a driving instructor.
Maybe he's like the Indian taxi driver in Deadpool, but for Spider-Man.
In London, maybe.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And he drives him around Europe.
Yeah.
It's actually nothing about Spider-Man. It's just his holiday.
He's trying to go home.
It's actually a very long commercial for Europe. Just like it's like Getaway. Getaway is this Australian show. It's like Getaway, except Spider-Man's like the host. It's like, oh, I'm at the Big Ben. Look at Big Ben, and he like swings up and like goes around Big Ben.
Let me give you a panoramic view.
You facts.
Did you call it Spider-Man? It's Coming Home.
Which definitely isn't.
Just to scoop the fans.
That still hurts. I can't talk about that. It still hurts.
But yeah, that looks interesting. That's the first movie after Avengers 4. So it's coming out next year. It's not far away.
Oh wow, Avengers 4 is coming out like...
Avengers 4 is coming out April, and then Spider-Man's coming out July.
Wow, okay. Very busy.
Yeah. So it's not far. It's far from home, but it's not far from getting released.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Ugh. Pun. Play on words. I love it. Did you write that one down?
Yeah.
Did you write that one down?
I've been practicing that one all week. I was like, when you talk about this movie,
yeah.
I'm going to say this.
In front of the mirror.
Yeah.
We,
Do you practice all your jokes before you get on the podcast?
Absolutely.
Do you write them all down
it
as well?
sounds like we improv, but this is all
Yeah.
scripted. Like we actually, even this part's scripted. I'm reading off a script right now.
Yeah. I write down all my jokes as well, but it's just a list from 1 to 20 of fuck written different ways. And that's it.
Okay, well, we've got some more MCU news. Captain Marvel, which is the next Marvel movie. Samuel L. Jackson, we know that he's going to be in it as Nick Fury, but he's going to be a Nick Fury that's 25 years younger than what we've seen him. And he's going to be digitally de-aged, which we've seen that in, we'll talk about it in our review of Ant-Man and the Wasp, but they did use it for Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer in Ant-Man and the Wasp, and it looked pretty good, I thought.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in the review, yeah.
If they make it look that good with Samuel L. Jackson, that'll be interesting too.
For me, the interesting part would be, is he going to play a full-length role, or is he going to play a cameo? Because I feel like it would cost a lot of money to put him on a full-length role and de-age him for every scene. But, I don't know, maybe they'll do it. Marvel's bloody rich and Disney is rich, so maybe they can afford it.
Apparently Coulson's in it too, and he'll be
Oh, nice.
de-aged as well.
I've missed Coulson. He hasn't been around for a while.
Yeah, well technically, I think he's meant to be dead in the present universe of Marvel.
He came back in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, but I don't know if is that canon?
Yeah, it's
So
canon.
he's actually back.
It's canon, but it's never going to cross over with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But technically, it's canon.
Okay.
It might now if they reverse the time.
Maybe he comes back. But yeah, that'll be interesting. Captain Marvel's coming out in March. So it's a bit weird. It's coming out in March, and then Avengers is coming out end of April. So there's not much in between them. And then Spider-Man's in July.
I feel like it'll be a direct continuation. Captain Marvel and Avengers might pick up off where Captain Marvel leaves.
And the last bit of news we had, also MCU-related news, just came out today. Black Widow movie. It's directed by an Australian, someone from Canberra.
Canberra.
Yeah. So Bharadwaja's from Perth. We've got someone from Hobart. We all know that Melbourne is the best.
Yeah, clearly. Don't worry, I've got friends from Canberra who I talk shit about Canberra all the time.
Yeah, Canberra's probably the worst out of all the cities.
Canberra's alright. It's safe, but it's boring. So you got cities like Adelaide or places in Northern Territory, which might be interesting because of the danger, but it's not as safe as Canberra.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's enough of a tangent on Canberra. Let's go back to what we're talking about.
So the director is Kate Shortland. She's directed movies such as Somersault, Law, and Berlin Syndrome, none of which I've seen.
Oh, yeah. They're probably my top 3 favourite movies of all time, so...
Okay.
Before the Nick Cage movies, of course.
Oh, yeah, they're in a whole different list, but it goes those, and then Berlin Syndrome, and the other 2 that you just said.
The other two, Darren?
Yeah. The other 2, yeah.
What are they?
You know what they are. You know what they are. I don't need to say.
The audience knows.
I don't need to be telling you what they are. Yeah.
So apparently Scarlett Johansson was highly involved in selecting the director as well. Obviously it was Marvel and her that came to their decision. So she's obviously playing a pretty big role in this movie.
Apparently, they actually went over 70 directors
Yeah.
when they came to this director.
Because they've been trying to make this movie for a while, but they just haven't found a director. Do you reckon that Hawkeye will feature in this one?
No, I think it will be a prequel before she meets Hawkeye. So when she's a Russian spy, I think that will be kind of where the story goes.
Was she working for Hydra before, or is that just in the comics?
No, she was working for the Russian government.
Right, but was that part of Hydra, or was that separate?
No, Hydra's German.
But you know how Hydra had roots in all the major organizations?
Yeah, there's probably Hydra agents in Russia, but Hydra parallels the Nazi regime, I guess. So Hydra and Germany are kind of the same, and then Russia is a separate thing. They were against the Nazi regime, so I guess she would have fought against Hydra a little bit. But also saying that, there is a rumor that the Winter Soldier might be in this one.
That'd be interesting.
So maybe she does work for Hydra for a little bit and works with the Winter Soldier, so...
Yeah, because the Winter Soldier had to shoot Black Widow to get to one of the targets that she was protecting. She shows that scar on her stomach.
Yeah.
In Captain America 2. That'd be cool if they bring that in.
So yeah, he might be in this one.
Because he's got a 9-picture deal or something.
Yeah, but he might take over as Captain America as well, so...
So we started this podcast with Infinity War, and now we're at Ant-Man and the Wasp, and it doesn't seem like it's been that long
between movies. I was just saying before I even watched Ant-Man and the Wasp that it feels like a bit early to already be watching a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Kind of still getting over Infinity War.
At least one that's its own standalone movie.
But saying that, after this, we have a pretty long wait until Captain Marvel.
That's true, yeah. So we'll jump straight into the review then. I forgot to mention at the start of the podcast, but if you didn't want to listen to the news, you could skip straight to the review using the timestamps. But here we are at the review, so you've...
It's a bit fucking late for that.
We can just copy and paste. Or
yeah, I'll just edit it in.
I don't want you to edit it in. I want them to go up to this part and realise the mistake that you've done.
We'll just lose all our listeners at this point.
Surely they can just skip ahead to see where they start.
Yeah. But anyway, this is where you have to come to start listening to the review. So we'll start with this story. Would you like to... We have a guest. So we've only ever had one guest, and that was Kishore, and we got him to explain the story. So would you explain the story, but with no spoilers?
All right.
So we're doing non-spoilers at the moment. So for those who haven't seen it, you can still keep listening.
This is coming from the guest who actually missed the first 3 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
So here we go. So I think the main premise of the film,
Dude, the first 3 minutes were the best. That's when everything happens. Yeah.
Great start. Then it's downhill.
Yeah. You missed Nick Cage's cameo.
As Spiderman Noir.
Thank God. The main premise of Ant-Man and the Wasp is basically trying to get Hank Pym's wife from the quantum realm. Whether they succeed or not, I guess you'll have to see if they do. Watch the movie. But apart from that, I think they encounter various obstacles. They get some new villains in. I'm not sure if this is revealed in the trailer, but I guess the name of the villain is called Ghost, is it?
Yes.
Ghost, yeah? And she has a really cool, phasing ability. I'm not sure how much of this is a spoiler or not, but you can kind of see this in the trailer. And the main story revolves around, Ant-Man and the Wasp trying to save his wife, and they're entangled with Paul Rudd's new life coming out of parole, and they deal with the different family dynamics. And on top of all this, you have different other villains coming in. Actually, just villain. Not that many villains in this one. Yeah, this is a really, complicated review. Or premise of the story.
Well, to be honest, there is a lot happening.
Yeah, there's a lot happening. That's the main part.
So basically, there's a lot happening, and Ant-Man and the Wasp do stuff.
There you go.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah, that's basically what happens. What you guys think of the movie?
Well, off on the bat, I'd have to say I wasn't too impressed by Ghost as a villain. I felt that she wasn't so much a villain, just someone trying to accomplish her own goals.
Yes.
She didn't have any ulterior motive, and because of that, they had to introduce some other characters to play the role of a villain, especially coming out after Infinity War. It's not something that's going to get everyone excited, but it is an enjoyable movie to watch, especially viewing Paul Rudd's acting as Ant-Man.
Yes. Yeah.
He nails the comedic timing, an amazing comedic actor, and he just brings a lot of life into the role, which was very enjoyable and made the film really funny to watch.
My biggest fear going into this movie in life was that after Infinity War, I just felt like this movie, they just wouldn't have the stakes. It seemed like a small movie where it was just Ant-Man and Wasp doing their own mission. Yeah. But then after watching Infinity War, where, the universe is ending pretty much.
Half the universe is gone.
I just didn't think we'd be able to digest something like this anymore, in the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
But surprisingly, I was still quite invested in the movie because even though it's not the universe at stake, there was still a lot of personal stakes
down to the character
at play. Yeah. I liked that aspect of it, and also the comedy that you mentioned was really on point. I thought even more than even the first Ant-Man.
Yeah.
The comedy really hit in this one. Obviously, Paul Rudd was good. Evangeline Lilly was pretty good as well. She had some jokes, but she more action in this movie.
Yeah.
Hank Pym, Michael Douglas was pretty good again. Luis had a good part in it. Well, he had a lot of good parts in it, but he had, how he tells these stories. In the first one, he has one of those again in this one.
Michael Pym does a really good job as well, yeah.
Overall, I actually really enjoyed the movie, and it was probably better than I even thought it would be. Maybe because I went in with slightly lower expectations this time. But I actually quite enjoyed it.
Probably similar opinions from my side. It was pretty good. I don't rate it very highly. It's probably mid-range Marvel for me. It's not lower end, but it's not amazing either. And compared to all the other Phase 3 movies that we've had, I would say this is probably the worst Phase 3 we've had yet. Just because Phase 3 has been it's been quite a good
Is this the
phase.
start of Phase 3?
No,
Or has Phase
this
3
was
come before Avengers 3?
Phase 3 was from Civil
Captain
War.
America, Civil
Civil
War.
War.
Yeah.
So everything after Civil War till now.
Okay.
Yeah. I would probably disagree with. So you reckon it's the worst?
You probably think Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is
Yeah,
the
that was probably
worst.
the worst.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think this is probably on par with Guardians 2 or just worse than it.
Nah, it's better.
Yeah, I would rate this higher.
Well, fuck you guys.
Well, you're in Tassie, mate, so...
Your opinion doesn't matter.
Yeah. But anyway, back to this. It's definitely one of the funnier Marvel movies. If you like the first Ant-Man, you'll probably like this Ant-Man. Action's a bit better in this Ant-Man than the first one, although the trailers kind of ruled
Yeah,
all
that
the
was
best
one thing.
parts.
So if you haven't seen any of the trailers, I would, just like we do with almost every movie these days, I would highly recommend not to watch the trailers and then watch this movie, because it ruins all the action beats in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, all the good action beats are ruined in the movie, because, they're in the trailer, basically. Other than that, all the actors are good. Paul Rudd, I enjoy. There's a couple of spoilery stuff I want to talk about, but other than that, I was pretty happy with it. It's a good time. I had fun with it.
Anything else you want to mention, non-spoiler?
Graphics are great. De-aging's very good.
And even all the shrinking and when he's Giant Man or Ant-Man, all of that looked really good, all the perspective stuff.
Ooh, quick shout out to the Asian cop. I forgot.
Yeah, we'll talk about him. He's
Johnny Woo.
Johnny Woo.
Yeah,
Something-
I
yeah,
loved-
Johnny
I
Woo,
loved
yeah.
His
character,
FBI.
FBI character.
Yeah, Randall Park is
Randall
the...
Park. That's
Yeah.
the one.
He was actually really good. Some people didn't
I
like him, though.
really enjoyed him. Yeah.
Some people... A lot of criticism around this movie is that the comedy just takes away too much from the movie.
Yeah.
And
Some people said the comedy didn't land as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I did feel that at some points Randall Park scenes took some of the seriousness out, but at the same time he added quite a bit to compensate for that.
yeah. Well, for me, it kind of all worked because it's Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
So the main character is Paul Rudd. And everything he does is pretty much comedy anyway. So it just works. Like,
It feels natural.
if it was like if Jimmy Woo was in a Captain America movie or something, then it wouldn't work because he'd be making jokes and
Yeah.
then Captain America would be all serious. So that wouldn't work. But in this movie, I thought it did work. The other thing I wanted to mention was the music. I actually really like the Ant-Man theme. Like, out of all the Marvel themes, I think it's one of the better ones.
I thought the music was okay. I didn't think it was amazing. It just didn't stand out to me that much. I think they reused the soundtrack from the first one, which is why I was a little bit disappointed. Kind of want a bit more from it, but it's not the worst. It's the Ant-Man theme's definitely good. In terms of music in Marvel movies, it goes Guardians of Galaxy and then the Avengers movies and then basically everything else.
Black Panther had some really good music as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, Black Panther had some good music as well. So this is like middle range music as well for me. Nothing spectacular, but it was okay.
So before this movie came out, I think we talked about it on our new segment, that this was meant to have a romantic comedy style tone, which it definitely doesn't.
No,
it doesn't. It's definitely more of the same from the first movie, the same sort of tone.
Yeah, I would agree.
There's a lot of stuff I want to talk about in spoilers. There's 2 end credit scenes. One of them is
Yeah.
definitely a must watch.
The other one, you can just walk out.
Nah, the other one is by far probably the best end credit scene I've ever seen. Actually, there's actually a slightly important thing in the other one, which I'll talk about
yeah.
in spoilers. Yeah.
I did also want to mention, so a lot of this movie is about families. They're obviously trying to find Hope's mother, and it's about their family.
It's basically Fast and Furious, except Marvel.
There's also a through line with Scott Lang and his daughter as well. So she's back, and she's really good in this movie again.
His daughter's fucking awesome. I actually really rated her character.
I'm glad you clarified
That
that.
That wasn't even a joke. I literally did rate her character.
Yeah, she's pretty funny. And it's the same actor as the first one. She's a bit older in this
Yeah,
one.
it is.
Yeah.
There's some spoilery stuff I want to talk about her as well in spoilers, remind me.
Right.
So if we're done with non-spoilers, I guess we'll give our ratings. We'll start with Taran's rating, which is always the most obscure one.
Yep, clearly.
36.89.
Out of...
36.89. That's all the information you get.
Every review is
Yeah.
like this, so we just got to figure it out. But I think that's good. I don't know. It's hard to say.
I'm going to say it's out of 50.
Okay, well that's not bad.
Yeah,
Not bad.
it's alright.
Yeah. What would you give it?
Well, I'm going to go back to the old Facebook memes and say it was a perfect 5 out of 7.
Walking into this movie, I thought I'd probably give it a watch on Netflix or watch on Blu-ray, because I thought after Infinity War this probably wouldn't land. But for me, it did. I actually had a really good time, and I would say it is probably worth watching in the cinema.
I concur.
Alright then, we'll jump straight into spoilers. So I want to start with the end credits.
Yes.
So the first end credits.
No, let's go for the second end. First end credits. Let's do it. So basically, Nick Cage comes out of the shadows, and then you realize that him and Thanos are working together. It's not like Nick Cage playing a character. It's actually Nicolas Cage, the actor, is working with Thanos. And basically, Thanos gives Nick Cage the Infinity Gauntlet, and he's like, "Here you go, Master."
How far are you going to carry this out?
I can keep going.
Was it Thanos
No one
Nick
would
Cage
stop.
romance?
No one was stopping me, so I just kept
I'm
going.
just liking what I was hearing. I was like, this actually doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah, you guys could explain the actual end credits.
So what actually happens in the end credit scene is, we actually didn't mention, but this whole movie is also about the quantum realm and going into the quantum realm, because that's where Janet Van Dyne is. So she's
Michelle
stuck in
Pfeiffer.
she's stuck in the quantum realm.
Who's still, like, somehow gorgeous, even after, like, spending, like, 30 years? No, like 20 years?
Yeah, like her.
Quantum realm?
Everyone keeps going on about her coming out with mascara on. It's like, does she have mascara in the quantum realm, or like...
The only noticeable thing was that her hair was white, but otherwise she looked almost the same.
Okay, yeah, this is not important. Let's move on.
But basically they have this, it's like a gateway to the quantum realm, and in the movie they have a really big version of it, but they figure out that they can make a portable version, so it fits in the back of a van, and they get Ant-Man to go in to the quantum realm to get some quantum energy to help Ghost. So the other thing is Ghost ends up being good. There's another thing we need to talk about, which is how Michelle Pfeiffer ends up healing Ghost, which was a little bit ridiculous.
You use some quantum energy that she's absorbed and healing Ghost, so that she no longer phases in and out of reality.
Because that's another thing that kind of took away from the movie, because the whole movie was Ghost needed the lab, and then those guys needed the lab, these guys needed the lab. But at the end of it, they didn't need it. Like, she could, if they got Michelle Pfeiffer out, she could heal her anyway. So it was a bit redundant at the end.
Yeah.
Coming back to the end credits, so basically Ghost is good again, and they need to heal her because she keeps phasing in and out of the quantum realm. Ant-Man goes into the quantum realm, and before he goes in, Michelle Pfeiffer's character tells him that he has to be careful, he has to avoid certain things. There's time vortexes or something.
Time vortexes.
That he should...
Tardigrade field.
Yeah, that he should avoid. And so he goes in, and then he's on the communicator with them, he can hear them, and then suddenly they cut off, and he gets the energy, and he's like, yeah, let me out, guys, and there's no response. And we find out that they are victims of...
being killed by Nick Cage. You're just standing above their bodies. He slit all their throats. I'm sorry, I was waiting for that part just to put that in. But yeah, what actually happens is they all turn to dust.
So they're victims of the gauntlet.
Of the snap.
Of the
snap.
So all of them disappear. So I thought actually one of them would survive. At least one of them. But all of them disappear.
Or like one of them and like half of Evangeline Lilly. 1.5 out of 3.
So they're all gone, and then we're left with Ant-Man stuck in the quantum realm with no way of getting out. What do you guys think? Where's it going to go from here?
We came up with a theory, we, meaning my brother Bhargav and I, came up with a theory saying that right before Ant-Man goes into the quantum realm, Michelle Pfeiffer says, don't go into the time vortex, otherwise we can't bring you back.
Yeah. Which
could imply that if he goes into the time vortex, he somehow either goes back in time or goes into some other parallel timeline which he can't go back. So one of the ways he might get out is he goes into the time vortex, goes back in time. Not too sure where back in time. Potentially, maybe the first Avengers or part of the first Avengers. The reason why I say this, because there's some set photos that are released, say that show like Ant-Man next to Captain America, and like Captain America had his like original blue-white suit, not the blue suit but the white star.
So the Avengers won.
Yeah, so it could be like
Suit, yeah.
it could have gone all the way to the back, and
we all know that Ant-Man wasn't there for that fight.
And he has like quantum energy with him, so he could use that to make some sort of maybe quantum device. Because there's all sorts of things going on, quantum probability theories, saying that if if something exists in this state, there's a chance that it might exist in a different state or something. I'm butchering this right now, but something might happen. It might use a sort of like probability theory to somehow reverse what Thanos has done or something. I mean, he's traveled back in time, so that already had some effect.
Did you have any potential theories?
Who, me?
Apart from Nick Cage ones, because we've heard all of those.
I have a lot of Nick Cage ones, actually, but I'll save them for another podcast. I think it's likely that he'll go into a time vortex because of time travel aspect that is expected in Avengers 4. Unclear if he'll go back in time or forward in time. Could go either way, because there's an old Tony Stark as well that's kind of back in time, so it could be that he goes forward in time, meets Tony, and they both go back in time together. So, but I think it's likely they'll use a time vortex of some kind. And saying that, there's also stuff I want to talk about with his daughter, but I'll save that for a bit later. We'll just talk about... Actually, no, I'll talk about that now. Anyway, they've cast an older version of his daughter for Avengers 4.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Has that come out? Or, like, they've cast someone and they said his daughter?
Yeah, they have. So, I think she's like 16 or 17, the person that they cast. So, a likely theory is that she takes over the mantle of Ant-Man in the future. And she does do that in the comics as well. She's a different character. But anyway, she's probably a superhero in the future. And maybe Scott Lang travels to the future and they meet each other. And then they like travel back in time or something like that. But she's probably going to play a part in Avengers 4 in some kind. And a big part of this movie is, well, not a big part, but she kind of hints at the fact that she wants to be a hero.
Yeah, she wanted to be his partner.
There's actually this really cute scene where
From the gas pump to the grocery store, inflation is everywhere. Seriously, make it stop. Thankfully, there's one company out there that's giving you a much-needed break. It's Mint Mobile. As the first company to sell premium wireless service online only, Mint Mobile lets you order from home and save a ton with phone plans starting at just $15 a month. All plans come with unlimited talk and text, plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/switch. That's mintmobile.com/switch.
like,
That was so adorable.
she's like, oh, why'd you just get a partner? And she's like, oh, but I don't think the Wasp wants me. And she's like, no, I meant me.
Nah.
He just shuts her down.
Yeah.
Go to your room. So, yeah, I think she'll become a hero in Avengers 4 and play a bit of a part in that as well.
I like the whole world's greatest grandma thing. That was quite funny.
She's actually pretty funny. She's like Paul Rudd funny. You can tell that she's Paul Rudd's daughter.
There's a part when they're watching TV and Ant-Man is Giant Man in the middle of San Francisco, and you see her parents and they're like concerned, and then the camera pans down to her and she's just smiling.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, basically her character's stature in the comics, yeah.
She's part of the Young Avengers, which is rumored to be one of the Phase 4 movies, so might be hinting at that in a bit of Avengers 4.
So I've got a theory as well, or a couple of theories. So one of them is...
Nick Cage.
No, unfortunately, I'll have to think more about that one.
Nah, I'll hit you up with the dates about that one later.
Go on.
Basically, the quantum realm, so people can channel through the quantum realm. That's how Janet Van Dyne was communicating with Ant-Man as well. So she was somehow getting... Because he's been in the quantum realm, so she could communicate with him and tell him where to come. So one character that we know, or we've seen that has been in the quantum realm is Doctor Strange. But he's dead. We know that he's dead.
Has he been to the quantum realm?
So, you know in Doctor Strange in the first movie when he first goes to Kamataj and then the Ancient One, she like puts him through all these different realms, like she sends him through
Yeah.
like all these different things and he's like falling through everything. One of them is a quantum realm.
Oh, because there's this one period of time where it's just like silent
Yeah,
and like the mirrors in the back are like falling into each other, and is that the same spot?
I think so.
And then was in.
Yeah.
Because like there was also a part where like a bunch of these hands came out. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
assume that he was like some LSD like attack or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's true. I
The
didn't
quantum
think of
realm kind of looks reminiscent of the what's that dimension that he goes into?
The Dark Dimension.
Do you know how he breaks into that glass
The mirror
dimension?
dimension.
Yeah, so there's this part where they go through the quantum realm and he breaks through the glass that looks like the mirror dimension, and then he breaks through another glass and he goes into the quantum realm. But basically there's a lot of stuff in the quantum realm hinting at the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But we'll get into that later. What was your theory? Keep going.
There might be a way that Ant-Man can communicate with Doctor Strange through the quantum realm. But it doesn't really work because Doctor Strange isn't there.
Yeah.
But Doctor Strange, he comes up with that theory. There's 1 in 14 million chances of beating Thanos. I think that one involved the quantum realm, I think. The other thing is Captain Marvel can potentially channel through the quantum realm. I'm not sure how she gets her powers, but there might be a way that he can communicate with Captain Marvel to get him out of the quantum realm.
Yeah, I think she gets some sort of telekinesis or astral projection powers from Marvel, her colleague, and there was some crash, I think, their DNA infuses, and she gets his powers. And I actually got that confused. Like, I assumed that Captain Marvel was like Marvel, but actually 2 different people. Yeah, that might actually happen.
The other option is he just gets out because either Ghost or
Lewis comes in and just
yeah, so one of them's alive and they just end up
reverse
getting
engineers
out.
or something.
But that would be quite boring. I feel like it'd be one of the things that we've talked about or something completely different.
They put him there for a reason, yeah. Right?
Yeah. But I think he'll play a really important role in Avengers 4.
Definitely.
I think he'd be the one that's kind of... He might actually be the one going back and forward in time.
Yeah.
I think all the other characters will actually stay as they are. And it'll be Ant-Man that's the one that's...
Yeah, he's the key to the 1 in 14 million.
Yeah, doing everything.
Although you see an old Tony Stark talking to Captain America wearing the Avengers 1 uniform, so...
The other option is he gets in touch with Tony Stark somehow. Or Tony Stark figures out something, and they both work together.
Which is odd, because at the end of Captain America, doesn't Tony Stark not know who he is? He's like, so who are you?
He's like, Hank Pym always told me not to trust a Stark. And it's like, who are you?
It's like, sorry, do I know you?
Yeah, that'd be quite interesting, actually, if those two. Because they're on opposite sides in Civil War as well.
But I mean, he forgave Captain America, surely he can, like... I doubt he, like, has gonna...
I don't think he really cares about Ant-Man.
Yeah.
So...
Who? Iron Man?
He's literally and figuratively insignificant.
Yeah.
To be honest, Iron Man doesn't care about a lot of people. He's a dick.
That'll be quite interesting, I think. I think Ant-Man will be playing an important role. I think Hawkeye will also feature more. Well, he didn't feature at all in Avengers 4, so he'll feature.
Unless they just killed him off. That'd be hilarious.
They kill him off screen as well. You don't get to see what happened. It's like, oh guys, where's Hawkeye? It's like, oh no, he died.
You know how the Russo brothers had fake scripts? They actually gave fake scripts to actors. What if they like filmed fake scenes and all the scenes with Hawkeye were fake?
Sorry, got that Avengers tattoo for nothing.
And it's not even like Thanos' snap that kills him. He like dies of like cardiac arrest or something. like something normal.
Like he eats too much McDonald's when he's retired and he just dies.
Or he just falls off his barn. It's not really dark, okay.
So now we know that Wasp probably won't feature in Avengers 4 unless they get her back somehow. But
maybe towards the end, but I think she does have a big role.
Bit disappointed that she won't feature because she's really good in this movie.
I thought she would, but yeah, I'm surprised because she's actually one of the founding members of the Avengers in the comics. So her and Ant-Man are like part of the team that first founded it.
But it's not Hope. It's Hank and Janet.
Yeah, Hank and Janet in the comics. We can talk about the second end credit scene, which you say is equally or more important.
It's probably my favorite end credit scene ever. So basically, you wait through about 10 minutes of credits. This credit scene was really long for some reason.
Tons of curries.
The credits.
The credits, yeah.
It took like a long time. Yeah, the credits took a long time. And then it pans across Ant-Man's home, and then you see an ant playing Rock Band, and he's just playing the drums on the Rock Band. It's actually in the trailer. You can watch it if you want.
So why did they ruin an end credit scene in a trailer? Who's putting these trailers together?
But anyway, it's not that important.
It's not. But...
Semi-important part.
I'm more curious as to why you say, Thorin, that what was the important part?
Okay, I'll hit you with the important part. It's not that important. It's pretty stupid. But anyway, as it pans across his home, it pans across to a TV screen. And on the TV screen, it's just blank static. So it's like, after the snap, basically the world's gone to shit and there's no, media.
Yeah.
So we find out that the TV crews are not spared by Thanos' curse. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's basically it. It's stupid. It's not a good end credit scene.
Yeah, so people can't even watch TV now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a bit of a troll, by the movie makers. They know you're going to stay there, so they're like, let's just put in this shit scenes.
Yeah.
I kind of got why they did it in at the end of Spider-Man Homecoming, because they had Captain America say that patience is a virtue or something.
Yeah.
That was good, but here they're just wasting your time, I felt.
Well, I knew after the first end credit scene, because that was a pretty...
Yeah, that was as important.
Like, that's all I really needed. So I knew the second one wasn't going to be anywhere near as good. Like, they're not going to have two very impactful end credit scenes. It's always like a joke one and a proper one. And
if I'm being honest, one of the big reasons why I saw Ant-Man and the Wasp was to find out what the connection was.
Yeah.
I feel like that wasn't just me, it was a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that one end credit scene was what I needed for this film.
We can talk about the rest of the movie with spoilers now.
Yeah.
We'll go through a list of characters. So Ant-Man, Paul Rudd, who was good as usual. He's in house arrest. There's some things that I want to talk about in terms of the physics of the shrinking and stuff. So you know how they have the cars that can go small and stuff now? Like shrink and I think they only shrink. But in the first movie, they developed this theory that you have to have the suit to get small. And the reason Hank Pym stops being Ant-Man is because it wears him down.
Yeah.
So if you use it too much, it starts to physically impact you.
I think for organic matter, though.
But then you see Louise in the car, and he does it, he shrinks, and he's fine. Like, he shrinks in the car, and he comes back out. So there's some things that they kind of undid from the first movie, some of the rules that they set up.
True, yeah.
So I don't know how the car works. Like, maybe it's like a pseudo suit, and if you're in the car, you can shrink.
Yeah.
I think that's how it works. It's like a suit in the car, and everything in the car shrinks. So it's just like a suit. A bit like a car suit, which kind of makes sense, but I don't know. Dude, it's a world where, like, people shrink. You can't expect it to all make sense.
No, I need everything to make sense. So, you know how they have the smaller lab that they've shrunk into like a suitcase size? When that's in the cart, that shrinks even further. So if you have something that's already shrunk, you'll shrink even more.
Yeah, because it has to be relative to the size of the shrinking in.
Yeah. So is that getting like quantum level shrinking?
I don't think so.
If you start unpacking this, then it's going to be real shit. There's going to be a lot of shit that's going to come out. Yeah.
But I just thought it was kind of a backward step because they set up some rules.
No, there is definitely some laws they kind of overlook.
I definitely agree, yeah. I want to talk about Paul Rudd for a sec. Can we go back to that? I really do like his character, but I feel like they undervalued him in this movie.
Definitely, yeah.
In the first movie, he's still this smart guy. He's still stupid and everything, but he's like an engineer.
Yeah,
he breaks into Hank Pym's house.
He knows how to do stuff. Like, he's not a complete... He's not like, in this he feels like he feels like a complete idiot.
Yeah,
he just doesn't know anything, yeah.
So I feel like they devalued him a little bit, and it's not as good as the first movie where you're like, he is a smart guy and he does deserve to be in this suit. In this movie, he's just like a blubbering idiot a little bit, which I thought devalued him. But other than that, he's real great.
Wasp was good. She gets more action in this one.
Yeah, she's badass.
Michael Douglas was good. Again, same as he's probably a bit funnier in this one than the first one. Has a few more jokes.
And I reckon he was happier in this movie as well, because the previous movie he was complaining how he didn't get to be the Ant-Man because he wanted to get shrunk. But in this one, he actually gets involved in the towards the end. So I reckon he would have loved that.
I think he's got a bit of an ego about him because he doesn't like when people are smarter than him. I think in general, because he doesn't like Bill Foster. And he just tried to help them. Like, I don't think he was...
I think in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in terms of egos and being dicks, it goes Tony Stark, and then above him, it's Hank Pym. Because Hank Pym's the biggest dick, and he's got such a big ego.
In the comics as well, he's actually not the best character. Like, he beats his wife and stuff in the comics, so he's not the best character. Obviously in this, like, they can't do that, but they've kind of included...
He's still a dick.
That he's not, like, the best guy out there. And I think, in terms of, like, intelligence as well, I don't think he's that smart. He's kind of like a guy who works really hard, and he's, like, invented the Pym particle and everything through his hard work. I reckon he's just above average normal intelligence. I don't think he's Tony Stark level. He's not near that.
He's probably not even Bruce Banner level.
No way. I think those two are like way, way ahead of him.
He's probably like Peter Parker level.
Yeah, he's just a guy that he's smart, but he has to work hard to achieve what he's done. Whereas Tony Stark, I don't think he even has to try to do stuff. Like, he's just naturally just talented and smart.
I don't know. I mean, Hank Pym was able to create technology that was able to decrease and increase the distance between, like, atoms.
Yeah.
And, like, that's... And, like, I don't think Peter Parker could do that. And, like, I think that's, like...
Well, that's because he's still a high school student, but, like...
Right, but, like, that does take a certain genius. And also... Yeah, I know I will argue about that. But, yeah.
But he's probably, like...
I reckon he is a genius, but just Tony Stark is just more of a genius.
But, yeah, like, Bruce Banner, Tony Stark, they're definitely smarter than him.
It's hard to compare with Bruce Banner as well, because they're specialized.
Yeah.
Tony Stark is more general.
Yeah.
Whereas Bruce Banner is more, like...
Just gamma radiation.
Yeah. Whereas he is, like, quantum mechanics and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's probably about the same as Bruce Banner, now that I think about it. Because Bruce Banner's the same, like, he studied and he spent years and years, like, getting...
Bruce Banner's real smart, though.
Yeah, like, he became an expert in his area, but he also had to spend years and years. Whereas Tony Stark, I feel like he never really studied that much.
I think he does, like, he's, like, study hard, study smart. So he's, like, one of those kids who, like, does everything efficiently.
Yeah.
At the same time, he's, like, an extraordinary genius.
Yeah, like, you know, at school, you have the kids that work really hard.
Yeah.
But then you have some freaks that, like, you know, they just play PlayStation the night before an exam and they still ace it. So Tony Stark's one of those kids.
Yeah.
Sure, he's smarter than all of those guys, though.
True.
Probably, yeah.
True.
Probably.
She pretty much, like, adapted the vibranium to most of the, like weapons, clothing, suits, technologies.
Her technology's, like, far better than anything Tony Stark's created.
And she has no ego.
No. Well...
She's not a dick.
A little bit, but not much. Yeah.
To her brother.
Yeah.
She's not Tony Stark level dick or Hank Pym level dick.
There is a part in Infinity War where, like, she's talking to Bruce Banner and they're like, and she says something about, like, oh, why don't you recalibrate the neurons to work with each other? And he's like...
And then Bruce Banner's like, because we did think of that. They still haven't introduced the most intelligent Marvel person ever, Reed Richards.
Well, actually, it's Reed Richards and then Dr. Doom. They're the smartest. They're meant to be the smartest, yeah.
Apparently Reed is one of the most smartest in the universe.
Yeah.
Not just, like, that's insane.
Yeah, and then Dr. Doom and then Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Way below. And then Tony Stark.
Because there are a bunch of, like, extraterrestrials and, like, celestial beings who come in between.
But Reed Richards is meant to be fucking beast when it comes to...
Yeah, no, he's even smarter than some of the celestials.
Well, talking of Beast is pretty smart too.
Oh yeah, Beast is pretty smart.
X-Men Beast.
Beast is very smart. How do we get onto this? I feel like we diverted somehow.
Well, we're still talking about...
Someone brought in Reed Richards.
Yeah, me.
Oh yeah.
What else? Oh, we're going to talk about Michael Pena.
Michael Pena, hilarious. He's one of the best parts of this movie.
Him and also the two other guys?
The two Stooges.
The two other guys. I think one of them's T.I., isn't it? The rapper?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's T.I. Yeah.
And the other guy who was in The Dark Knight.
Yeah, he was in The Dark Knight.
They're both pretty funny. The funniest part is the truth serum part.
The truth serum part, yeah. And he goes on this rant, and there's a line how it's like, Oh, if you put a dime to play the song, you got to listen to the whole song.
Yeah. I love those random tangents.
And then Ghost just comes out of nowhere. It's like, where is he? And he says it straight away.
It's like, where is Scott Lang? It's like, I thought you meant where is he in life?
And I also love how Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly like acted out those scenes as if Pena was talking
Yeah,
to
yeah.
them. I could change mannerisms. That was like,
Yeah.
Yeah, or also another funny scene when someone's acting out what someone else is doing. When Paul Rudd acts as
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Janet.
Yeah, that part's pretty funny.
That is hilarious. I
But
found
I
that so funny.
I don't know if it was meant to... Was it meant to be funny?
Oh yeah, obviously he holds his hand. It's so funny.
And it's funny
then
when he comes back. It's funny when he comes back and it's like, what is going on? But like when he's actually like, it's actually meant to be her talking to them, right? So I thought it was.
I was laughing the whole way through.
Was it meant to be like
Especially
an
when-
emotional connection?
No, I think it was. I think it was meant to be funny.
That's why that scene sort of ruined the reunion a bit, because it was supposed to be at the end when the mother meets the daughter,
Yeah.
and there's no actual impact because that's already happened.
Yeah.
before, right?
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
exposure.
I thought it was hilarious though. I loved it.
It was funny, but at the cost of that emotional movie.
Yeah. It definitely took away from when she does.
It took
actually
away
come
from the
back.
boat. Yeah.
We can talk about Ghost. Hannah John Carmen. I don't know if I haven't seen her in anything else. Apparently,
I've not seen her in anything.
she's in some TV shows. She was pretty good. I thought her character was good. They did give her a bit of a backstory as well of how she gets her powers. She turns out not to be a villain after all. Like, she does have some good in her.
She was kind of the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, but she didn't do anywhere near as like Winter Soldier's actually killed people and stuff.
Yeah,
whereas
no, she killed people. Like, she killed quite a few people.
She does. Yeah, she kills people.
Like, she does that phasing
Remember
thing
she
to
did.
their head and then, like, destroys their brain or whatever, then takes it out.
She did like the wet work for S.H.I.E.L.D. Remember? You
Yeah,
see like
yeah.
a small flashback about it. Yeah.
But that was when she was being used as a weapon.
Yeah.
Which is similar to Winter Soldier, yeah. But after she kind of comes to her senses,
Mm.
because there's a scene where she was going to go after Scott Lang's daughter, and Bill Foster tells her that he'll stop helping her if she does that, and she actually doesn't end up doing it. I actually thought she would.
I thought as a villain she wasn't great, but she has a decent backstory. Both the villains in this movie are pretty shit. We'll probably talk about Walter Goggins in a sec.
We'll talk about him in a sec. But before that, we'll talk about Bill Foster, Lawrence Fishburne, who's in two universes, comic universes now, DC and Marvel. Does this mean that he's ditched DC?
I heard he won't come back. He said he's unlikely to come back for Man of Steel 2, and he refused to come back for Justice League, so
Oh, wow.
he might be done.
Okay.
Well, that was a good decision on his part.
Fair enough.
His character was good. So in the comics, he's also got powers. Or
Giant Man.
Yeah, he's Giant Man. He's
he
Goliath.
gets killed in the Civil War arc.
He's Goliath in the comics, yeah.
Yeah. Do you know how he gets killed in the Civil War arc in the comics?
How?
Thor kills him. Not Thor, but Iron Man basically makes a robot version of Thor to fight Captain America in the Civil War arc. And then the robot goes crazy and it kills Goliath. It goes straight through his body. And then he dies. And he's like the only casualty. And then after that, shit goes down. I thought you read the Civil War arc, did you?
I got you the comic, but I never read it.
Okay, just an update. Apparently he's called Black Goliath.
Like this version of it, or just all
Like-
versions of it?
The Bill Foster, also known as Black Goliath.
Are you saying black?
Black, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just making sure. I had to make sure. He's a decently big character in the comics. He's not massive. He is massive in terms of he's big, but other than that, he's not.
There was a part where he gets I don't know if it was de-aging for this. Apparently, it was his son.
It's his son, yeah.
So there's a part where Bill Foster's younger, and he goes to meet the younger Ghost, like when she's a kid, and he
Oh,
gives her
yeah.
like a teddy bear.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Was that his son?
yeah. Apparently, that's his son.
Really?
Yeah,
It looks exactly like him.
yeah.
So did they not use any CGI?
No.
That is insane.
We can talk about Walter Goggins. I actually thought he was hilarious.
I watched a movie with Walter Goggins just the other day. The new Tomb Raider movie. He was okay. The big thing is, they were talking about him having... Do you know how he keeps referencing his boss throughout the whole thing.
So we never actually find out who he's working for. I've got a theory about that, but let's see what you say.
I've got a theory as well, but I feel like they should have used that person in Walter Goggins' place rather than having him as the boss. So my theory is that his boss is Justin Hammer from Iron Man 2. So he's trying to get tech and all that kind of stuff to just create new stuff. He's out of jail now. I feel like they should have just had Justin Hammer in Walter Goggins' place. It would have been a much better villain, since he's already fleshed out a little bit.
My theory was that he was Justin Hammer as well. The other theory is that he's the Vulture. Because this could be before Homecoming.
Oh, true. It could be, yeah. But then why not just have the Vulture in it as well? It would be so much better movie. Like, why have this random guy and not flesh it out and then keep it?
I don't think the Vulture would have, like, if it's the same Vulture from prior to Homecoming, I don't think he would have had the reach to have, like, subordinates like Walter Goggins, who has so much power as it is.
Yeah.
In a different city.
It's probably someone like Hammer.
Yeah, Hammer.
Yeah.
I would have loved it if it was Hammer, because I actually like that character.
Yeah, he's quite funny, Sam
I'd be
Rockwell.
surprised they
Yeah.
brought him back.
And he would... Don't you think his humour would have worked well in this movie?
Yeah, it would have, yeah.
Definitely.
But maybe they're saving that for a sequel or something. Because Ghost is actually not an Ant-Man villain. Ghost is actually an Iron Man villain. And in the comic, it's a man.
It's not a girl, it's a guy, yeah. Kind of change the character a bit. She looks like she's going to be a bit of a hero if they bring her back, so... But Marvel isn't... Like, they do change the characters from the comics.
Last couple of things I wanted to talk about in terms of characters was Stan Lee cameo,
Yeah.
which was a pretty good one.
I like this cameo.
I had fun in the 60s, but now I'm paying for it.
That was quite good.
Do you know what that's in reference to?
Him, like, doing drugs and...
Doing stuff in the 60s.
So in the 60s, when they used to write comics, they used to go on LSD and then write comics,
Right.
like to get inspiration. So it's like referencing all the drug use back in the 60s, and now he's paying for it,
Right.
basically.
I thought it was just in general, like he
Yeah.
just went wild in the 60s.
Yeah, basically, but mostly the drugs,
While
the
doing comics,
LSD.
Yeah.
What a legend.
So it was a pretty good one. I think out of the Stanley cameos, I think it's
pretty
ranks up there. Yeah,
For me, the funniest one is still Thor 1.
What happens in that one?
he's in the. You know how they're trying to get the hammer off the rock,
Yeah.
and he gets like a ute, and he's trying to drive it off,
Yeah.
and the whole back of the ute just falls off,
Alright.
and he's like, "Oh, did it work?"
Oh, yeah.
I'm just laughing thinking about it, because you don't see him until the ute falls apart, and then shows him and he's like, did it work? It's a funny scene.
I'm glad he's still doing it, though.
And he'll be in the Infinity War sequel one as well.
Yeah.
I think he's already filmed like 8 cameos for the upcoming movies, because they're worried he might die.
He's getting up there. It's good.
It's like 95 or something. And I just wanted to mention Randall Park again as Jimmy Woo.
Yeah.
The funniest part I thought was actually at the end. When it's like, I'll see you later. And he's like, why would you see me later? It's like, oh, I thought you want to catch up with dinner or something. It's like, no, I don't want to do that. And then afterwards, like, do you want to catch up for dinner or something? It's like, no.
Do you want to get dinner?
And all the parts with the magic
Yeah.
at the start is
The start was hilarious.
it's like, how do you do it? It's like, what? The card trick. And there's another part where Paul Rudd actually references that when he's fighting Ghost. It is like...
Magic is always about keeping the person's attention on one area.
Yeah, like distracting the
audience.
Yeah, it's like the first lesson of Magic University Online. And there's another part just before that when he's trying to plan out what they're going to do. It's like, oh, so first step is this, and then second step is that. It's like, oh, that's actually part of second step. We'll call it part 2A. And then it's just like, shut up, man. It's just parts like that. Like, that's what made the movie. I feel like if they took it too seriously, it just wouldn't have worked. Like, as long as they had the comedy,
Yeah.
I was fine with it.
Because as far as seriousness, Infinity War took it to the max. They had to do another route, which is comedy.
So, before we end our spoiler review, I had some questions.
Ooh.
Some lingering questions. Let's see what we have. So, how will Scott get out of the quantum room? I think we've answered that.
Or theorized.
Second question, will Ghost return?
Maybe she could potentially sacrifice herself to trap Thanos, like, in the quantum. But that might give her too big of a role. Because, like, she's, like, some minor character that we've seen so far.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Can't really
I
think.
don't know if she'll be in Infinity War.
No, that'll be too many
Avengers
characters.
4.
I think she probably will return because I've got another question, but it'll be the answer to that question. Third question is, can this tech, so the Ant-Man tech, reverse the events of Infinity War?
Well, I mean, like, apart from the theories.
What we think is they'll use it to fight Thanos, but will it actually reverse the events of Infinity War? So none of that actually happens.
Like the quantum realm.
Yeah.
Unless they... Yeah, no. If it's just, like, only Ant-Man will be able to experience the time reverse, but if they want to actually change that...
Everything.
That actual timeline, that... Because the
Probably
time
a
stone
time
can only
stone, yeah.
reverse the events in that timeline.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it just becomes a different stream of time that Ant-Man experiences.
Yeah.
So they have to do something about that.
The last question is potential Ant-Man sequels.
I think it might be about maybe Scott and Evangeline characters,
Wasp.
No,
Yeah.
like, what's her name again? Hope,
Yeah.
It might be them, like, heading the new technology, like, taking in charge of technology, maybe incorporating it with the Avengers or something.
Yeah.
Maybe going back to the original comics, something like that. I'm not sure.
That would be good. I would like more team-up
Yeah.
movies. So maybe one of the Avengers characters, or maybe they're in one of the other Avengers characters' movies, like a Spiderman or a Black Panther or something. The other thing that I thought might happen with a sequel is they might have an Ant-Man team-up movie. So just Ant-Man characters. So Ghost, Wasp, Ant-Man, possibly Goliath, and they'll have to fight someone.
It has to be, like, on a big scale, though. It has to be, like, big stakes this time.
Because there's probably enough characters in just this universe now
Yeah.
to have a team-up. Black Panther, he can have a team-up
Hmm.
in his own movie because he's got so many characters around him as well. Iron Man's got all his suits, so he's got his own team. Captain America's got Bucky, I guess. And Falcon, so he's got his own mini team. So they'll all kind of have their own teams within the Avengers as well, which is interesting.
Tony as Spider-Man.
Okay, so we'll cap it off with our top 3 moments. I'll start off with mine because I've got it written down. My top moment, I guess it was all the comedy beats, especially the parts with Louise and Randall Park.
Yeah.
All those parts really hit. And, well, my second point is Louise. So that scene with Louise, how he recounts the story. And obviously the end credit scene. The first one.
Okay, so you kind of just cheated and just took all the, like, best ones immediately.
One thing we didn't mention was there's a scene where Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly go to her school.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. The teacher calls Paul Rudd as, like, thinks he's a student.
Yeah, just see him running. And then, when at the very end, when he comes into the van, and then Michael Douglas like, oh, do you want some
fruit?
Do you want a juice box that says cheese? And it's like, do you actually have that?
You really have that?
Oh.
Alright, so you guys kind of already took my top 2. So the last one, I'll go with Hank Pym going into the quantum realm. Because I felt like that was really interesting just to see his experience into the quantum realm. Just to get more details on it. That's really it.
No, that part was quite interesting because they keep saying that it like breaks you apart and stuff.
Yeah, and you eventually see how it's like destroys his psyche as he gets too deep.
Yeah.
And then he gets rescued by his wife.
I feel like there's only so much you can do with these characters in their own movies.
Yeah.
But if you put them in another Avenger movie, or just even like they did with Civil War, I reckon they work really well. More than this version of Ant-Man, or even the Ant-Man in the first Ant-Man movie, I still probably prefer the Ant-Man in Civil War. I think that one is still the best one. I mean, it's the same character, but just the way they handled it in that in that movie was probably better than they've used him in these ones. And I just think he bounces off well off other characters. So it'll be good to see him in just pretty much any other movie.
It would be interesting to see Ant-Man shrink into the gauntlet circuitry, because that was made by Peter Dinklage.
Yeah, the dwarves.
And the dwarves.
Yeah.
It would be really interesting if they do that. Maybe like it's like a really weird like city like of circuitry inside the gauntlet or something.
Yeah.
It goes into.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
I'm still sticking by my theory that he turns small and goes into Thanos' ear and then turns big. Well, while we're here, there's actually a theory that Thanos isn't the big villain in Avengers 4. That there's someone else behind it. But I don't think it's true.
It's Snook.
Yeah.
There are a ton of guys who are like more powerful than Thanos, even with the Infinity Gauntlet. So like you can like there's like a ton of people that you can go into. So it's hard to really like pinpoint one person
Yeah.
that might.
So in terms of the 2018 Marvel MCU movies, where does this rank for you?
So what's been Black Panther, Infinity War,
And this.
and Ant-Man? Definitely third.
Yeah, probably third. Not that it's a bad movie or anything, but it's just the other two. The other two are just better.
Hi guys, it's me again. I hope you enjoyed that episode. That's all we had in terms of what we could salvage, because a lot of the audio from Taran's side was corrupted, so we lost a lot of the good stuff that we discussed during the day. So apologies for that, but I hope you enjoyed what we had left of the episode. Once again, thanks to Bharadwaj for being on the episode and providing his valuable insights, and we look forward to having him on the podcast for another episode. Next episode, we're going to be talking about one of our most anticipated movies of the year, Skyscraper. So till then, bye.